Good morning, and welcome to the Kansas Health Foundation's webinar on recognition grants. My name is Carolyn Williams. I'm Program Officer with the Kansas Health Foundation. Joining me today are Sean Brown, Program Officer, and Elisa Buller, Associate Program and Systems Officer. Also on the call today is Adrienne Payne-Andrews, who is a consultant to the Foundation and serves as the Project Director for the Recognition Grant Program. And while it has been my pleasure to be the Program Officer on the Recognition Grant Program for many years now, we are transitioning that role to Sean Brown. So in the future, Sean is going to have the lead on the recognition grants. I know how much she values the recognition grants, so I'm able to pass that torch on to her without too many tears, at least at this point. But the purpose of today's webinar is to provide an opportunity for potential applicants to hear directly from program and grants management staff about the recognition grant program and to ask any questions that you may have. Because of feedback and noise issues, all those on the webinar are now muted. As questions occur to you, please type the question in the box on the right-hand side of the screen and then submit it. We've allowed time for responding to those questions following staff remarks. And also during the question and answer session, we will unmute the phones so that you may verbally ask questions as well. So please make sure that you've entered your audio PIN when you logged onto the webinar, so we can unmute all the callers later. If you haven't already done so, you may do that now. You can find it at the bottom of the sidebar on the screen. The Recognition Grant Program was developed in 1994 to provide an opportunity for nonprofit organizations to submit unsolicited requests to the Foundation that fit within the mission of the Foundation, which is to improve the health of all Kansans. Since then, the Foundation has funded about 1,500 grants, totaling more than $20 million. And those grants range from as little as, I think, $500 up to the maximum of $25,000. And each cycle, there's a different request, but generally, grants average about $13,000. The recognition grants expand the Kansas Health Foundation's support to a broad range of health-related organizations throughout the state. While the majority of the Foundation's funding is through invited proposals through our strategic planning, the Recognition Grants Program is designed to fund unsolicited requests. It's targeted for organizations and agencies proposing meaningful and charitable projects and working in policies affecting health that fit within the Foundation's mission of improving the health of all Kansans. In 2002, the Foundation began hosting a conference for recognition grant recipients. The purpose of this two-day conference is to provide information and resources to support your efforts and allow you to connect with other nonprofit organizations throughout the state. And included in the conference are several skill-building sessions and workshops with topics ranging from an overview of strategic communications, planning, volunteer management, leadership, fundraising, donor development, board development, just a variety of topics. And we have an advisory group of previous grantees who help us determine what additional workshops or breakout sessions we need to provide. Previously, only those who received grants were invited to attend the conference the following April. But beginning with this conference in just a couple of months, all of those who submitted an application in 2012 will be invited to attend the conference. As I said earlier, the maximum amount of recognition grants is $25,000 per organization. And it's using a competitive process. The Foundation will award as much as $2 million annually in grants in our recognition grant program. The application deadlines are March 15th and September 15th of each year, And in the event that those deadlines fall on a weekend, the applications will not be due until the next business day. Now I'll turn the webinar over to Sean Brown, who will provide information on eligibility and our process.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. And I'd just like to talk for a moment about ineligible projects. And as you can see on the screen, medical research included. In addition, for example, medical equipment. I won't go through the entire list, but you can find a comprehensive list on the website as well. Regarding medical equipment, while we do not fund equipment or direct medical services, a grant allowable expense could include the cost of dental supplies or, the rental of dental equipment necessary to provide dental care, or, say, for example, staffing of logistics. Also, regarding lobbying, activities supporting candidates of political campaigns. So we as a foundation cannot lobby, nor can any of our grant funds be utilized to lobby. As a point of clarification, though, you can advocate for policy change with organizational decision makers. You can educate government policy makers and participate in community mobilization and education. And then next, I'd like to talk a little bit about our review process and the review committee. Since we are in Kansas, it's kind of like peeking behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz to see who's reviewing the proposals. And our review committee is an independent review committee made up of Kansans from all walks of life who live in different areas of the state to evaluate all of the grant applications received in each recognition grant cycle. And the thing about it is, they really know nonprofits. They have a deep knowledge of diversity in the region, the geographical area of the state. They really know nonprofits in and out. Now, we ask them to make a 3-year commitment to serve on the technical review committee, and in some cases they have served for longer. So they have a really good knowledge of what's going on. And they range from people who have worked in the public health sector, worked in nonprofit organizations either as paid staff or professional volunteers. And they may range, for example, from a teacher to a coach to a public health department director. So it's really quite cross-sectorial in nature. Another thing I'd like to touch on are some typical questions to consider as you're preparing your proposal, and you'll find a more comprehensive list on our website. One thing to look at is, does the proposal include any of the exclusions previously listed? So, for example, if you're requesting $25,000 of medical equipment, that would not be funded. And sometimes proposals may include ineligible items as a part of the budget, and in that case, the proposal, if it's merited by the technical review committee, would be partially funded for only the acceptable items. Another thing to think about is, does the proposal address a significant community health problem that's defined in a clear and compelling way? Do you make your case with data? Do you outline why you are uniquely positioned to do the project or the program? For example, you may be an after-school program focusing on academics, but now you're branching into healthy behaviors and you want to focus on reducing obesity in elementary school children. Well, are you making a compelling case in terms of the data? For example, your proposal might cite 45% of the children in our school district are obese. We survey parents, and 75% will consider an exercise component and adding healthy fruit snacks as a value add to the program. Or, they'd be willing to pay additional if we expanded our service time by 1 hour per day. Citing things like, we're charging X dollars per month, and just really being able to demonstrate sustainability. So are you making that type of case with data? For example, are you describing why you're uniquely positioned to address the issue? For example, the after-school program director may have a master's in physical education and have worked for, 15 years in the community, those types of things. Or perhaps you've received a donation of a van that will allow you to transport the children from the local YMCA, and you've been partnering with them. So they're looking at those types of capacity issues. If you're an organization that has been doing the same type of work for a number of years, you want to be able to demonstrate the types of outcomes or goals you've achieved. So if you've received 3 grants from the foundation in the past and you're requesting funding for a 4th year, it would really behoove you to demonstrate the type of outcomes that you've had in the past and why funding is needed again. Another thing that I want to point out is when you're intimately familiar with the work that you do, be careful to avoid the trap of leaving gaps in your proposal. So just consider it as if you're describing it for the first time to someone who has no idea what your organization does, even if you have notoriety throughout the state. Sometimes, as the committee is reviewing, they may come across a question or think, I wonder how they're going to achieve this, or there's something that's missing. If we don't have you there to be able to ask, it makes it difficult. So just having everything well-defined is helpful. Another thing we look at are the outcomes of the project clear and measurable and reasonable, those SMART objectives. For example, are you describing the number of people that you want to impact, and is that reasonable for the amount of dollars that you're requesting? Are you describing the percentage change that you want to see happen in terms of the outcome? Say, for example, increasing physical activity or perhaps decreasing a behavior such as tobacco use. In the after-school example, your proposal might indicate, we've seen that grades have gone higher in terms of children that were in our program. Another thing that we look at would be just the budget in terms of what you're asking for the project. Say, for example, you're asking $25,000 for a project that will impact 20 people, or is it going to address 350 people? And does your organization have the capacity to carry out the project or the activities? Another thing regarding budget is if you're requesting only part of the funding that you need from the foundation, what commitment level do you have from other sources if it's a bigger project? If you don't get all of the funding that you need, is there a contingency plan? Will you be able to carry out the work at the level that's needed? Another thing that the committee looks at is how does the project rank when compared with other applications received during the funding cycle. It's a very competitive process, so your proposal is not only being compared with those across Kansas, but also other organizations that are doing similar or the same work issue. So in the after-school program example, we're going to look at other after-school programs across the state and compare those, looking at the demographics. Are there proposals that are lacking from a certain region of the state or certain counties? Is one of them reaching out to underserved populations? So there's a lot of activity that may be coming from one part of the state and not others. So there's a whole range of factors that are being considered. In summary, you want to pack as much punch into your proposal as possible by considering all those salient points. And at this point, I will turn it over to Elisa Buller, who will walk you through the application process.
Thank you, Sean. Today I'm going to briefly go over the website pages that we've created for the Recognition Grant Program, as well as briefly go over the application and the requirements that you need to submit with your application. So I'll go to the Foundation's website, which is kansashealth.org. And please bear with us today as our internet is running slowly. Sometimes it seems like it opened up pretty fast. So this is the home page you're seeing right now. We have a number of ways to access the Recognition Grant Program pages. We've got a number of stories here at the very top. The first story is regarding recognition grants, and you can click the Here button in red to get to the page. Or one of the faster ways to get there is by using the Quick Links button on the right side of the page in the blue box. So I'll click on Recognition Grant Information, And this is the home page we have built for most of the items that you'll need to reference to. This first paragraph is just communicating the webinars that we're offering. So we've offered one on Tuesday of this week as well as today's. And we plan on having these recorded, and we will post them at the latest by next week and post the slides that we've gone over. Underneath that paragraph, we've got the guidelines that Carolyn discussed in the opening of our presentation today. And we also have more detailed information as far as organizations who can apply, as well as those non-eligible projects that Sean went over. Underneath, we've got the review criteria, so there's more detailed information. You might look over that when you're putting together your proposal and make sure that you've got everything that will answer those questions, as that's some of the things that our review committee will look over. And then we have some of the deadlines and restrictions. So just review this paragraph, make sure your organization is applicable to apply, and it also references to some of the documents that you'll need to upload as far as IRS forms and making sure you meet the qualifications. Finally, at the very, very bottom of this page is all the information you'll need to start applying. So the first link that you're seeing is for the recognition grant application. So if you want to start a new application for this cycle, you'll click on this link here. And if you've already, let's say, started an application and you've saved it, which is something that you can do with your online application, and you want to come back to it at a later time, there's a sign-in page that you'll need to click on to get to your saved application. We've also created a template of the proposal, which is on that downloadable template link. And what this is it's just a Word document that we've put together that asks you all the questions that are on the online application, but we just wanted to provide this so it would be sure that it's the way they want it to look before it's submitted. But you will have to submit your application online, so you can copy and paste from this Word document and post it in the online application. And then we also have a contact information for our grants assistant, which is Gina Hess. So if you have any questions regarding the RG proposal process, please contact Gina. And I will open up the application and go through that here, but I want to quickly go through some more information we have on the website about the Recognition Grant Program. So I'll scroll up to the very top of the page. And on the right side, there's a blue box. And underneath Recognition Grants, we have three separate pages also created. We have an FAQ page. So if I click on that page, there's going to be a number of different questions that have been asked over many years that we've done this program, and they range from what we fund, how to apply, how we review applications, the reporting requirements, if you want to reapply, and then just some general broad questions that we have. So take a look through that, and they might answer some of the questions that you have as you're working on your proposal. On the next page that we have created, using the link of Recognition Grant Application, this page just provides some details about our online process, how to get started by creating an account, as well as the best ways to format your proposal so it can be read easily by our reviewers. And then finally, the last page we have created for a Recognition Grant Program is the Recognition Grant Conference page. As Carolyn mentioned, we do offer the conference we have so far every year, and this year it will be held on April 11th and 12th, and this will be for those that applied in the 2012 cycle, so those who applied in March and September. And then just some information on the speakers that will be presenting at this conference. So I'll go back to the application page. So I'll select the Recognition Grant page, and again go to the very bottom, and I'll click on the Recognition Grant Application link. The first page that you will see is the sign-in page, and it gives you instructions on how to create an account. So I'm going to be a new applicant, so I'll select the new applicant button. And you'll be asked to enter your email address twice as well as your password. So I will just enter. Once you've created your email account as well as your password, the first page you will see is an eligibility quiz. And we just want to make sure that your organization is applicable to apply and meets the criteria on those 3 questions. So to get through, I'm going to just select yes for today just so I can get to the next page. So I'll submit it. And now you're taken to the proposal. At the very top of the page, you can see the different sections of the proposal. This first section is for information for online applicants. And all this is covering is the same items that are on our website. We just want to make sure that you read all of this information before applying because it's very important. So we just wanted to put it in your face again to read. So I'll scroll down to the bottom and I'll select the next button. And again, it outlines the deadline for the proposal, which is March 15th. Now this page is just covering basic organization information, name, tax ID information, address, email account, and then information on the primary contact of the organization. Now let's say I'm working on this and I need to leave it and come back to it at a later date. If you select the Save and Finish Later button, it'll take you back to your My Account page. And that would be when you would go to then our website again and use that sign-in page link that I pointed out if you've already started in your application and have wanted to come back at a later date. So to get back to my proposal, I'll just select that link again. It'll reopen my proposal. And now I'm ready to start on the project information and questionnaire section. Again, we're just asking for basic information on the project director, the project title, the description of the project, and then start and end dates. And then we do have 6 questions that we cover in the project questionnaire. And I want to point out that for each field, we have limits on the words that you can enter. As you can see here, there's a limit of 100 words. And as you begin typing on the application, at the very bottom, you'll see that there's a word counter letting you know how many words you're at before you hit the max. And again, we do also on the right side have a spell check. So as you're typing and you've finished this question, you can hit that check mark and it'll do a quick spell check for you and correct any words that you might have spelled. So I'll scroll through. There's 6 questions again. And then I'll select the next button. And now we're taken to the project budget and narrative page. Now the very first question we're asking is for the total cost of this project. And we ask you to enter the overall project dollar amount. So for the recognition grant, you can ask the foundation for up to $25,000. Now that doesn't mean that's what your project necessarily costs. So if your project is costing $100,000, we want you to enter that dollar amount here. And then below is where we'll ask for the amount that you're asking from the foundation. So again, enter your overall project dollar amount in that field. And then the next section is where we ask for what you're requesting from the foundation. So it notes, please complete the project budget worksheet, which can be accessed as a link provided in the upper right-hand corner of the application. Once the Excel worksheet is completed, we'll want you to save the document to your computer and upload it as an attachment below. So to access that project budget worksheet, I'll scroll to the top, and you can see there's a button that says Project Budget Worksheet. I'll open this document. All right, here's the Excel spreadsheet that we'll want you to complete. We've got a number of budget categories here on the left side, and on the right side is where you'll enter the dollar amount for that category. You can see that we've got some formulas built in. Next to fringe benefits, where it says meets criteria, we at the foundation will only allow up to 25% of the salary to be counted on fringe benefits. So what that means is if my personnel costs are $10,000 and I want to enter my fringe benefits in there, it must meet 25% of that salary. So let's say that I want to enter $3,000. That's actually over 25% of the $10,000. So you can see on the right it says that that amount is not allowed and that you need to correct that amount to meet the 25%. So let's say I'll go back in and I'll enter $2,500 and it meets the criteria. So you'll fill out those budget categories, and if you have anything that doesn't fall within those categories given above, you can enter some new categories down below the blue font and enter the amount. Then at the bottom, it's going to total your total amount you're requesting from the foundation, and again, that number cannot be over $25,000, and on the right, it will let you know if you are over the amount that is allowed. I do want to point out we do have an indirect category that you can budget for, but that budget amount can only be 10% of your requested grant amount. And we do give a description below of what indirect costs are. So an example would be postage, telephone bills, printer ink, facility rent. It's those costs that are not project specific, but instead support the organization. And below we give an example of how you would correctly calculate your indirects. So once you've finished this document, you'll just save the Excel to your computer. And once you've done so, you can go back to your application, and we'll just ask you to then find that document on your computer and upload it. So for today, I'm just going to use a document that I have on my computer. It's not really a budget, but we'll use that as an example today. And then you'll select the upload button. Once you've uploaded, it'll let you know that your document is uploaded and the size. And then down below, the next field we ask for you to enter is your total amount that you are requesting from the foundation. And so this total amount is going to be that total amount on that budget worksheet we just had you fill out. So you'll enter that number here in this field. And again, it must not exceed $25,000. And then below, we'll ask a couple of questions regarding if your project budget exceeds the amount requested from the foundation. And then we will ask you for a project budget narrative. So all those budget items that you had in that project budget worksheet, we're just going to ask you to give us more detail of what that dollar amount is going to go for. I'll select the next button. And this next page is for the project description. And we'll again have a limit of 700 words. And you can see that you'll outline your anticipated results for your project and describe the activities you plan to address. And this box at the very bottom, we want you to read this box and put a check mark in it, acknowledging that you've read it. And all it's saying is that at the very end of your proposal, you're going to be asked to hit the review and submit button. And this means that you are just going to review your final proposal all at once. It's not actually submitting the proposal to us. So we want you to understand that by hitting review and submit, we're not receiving it yet, that there is a one last submit button. So we've had in the past where people hit that button and they thought that the foundation had reviewed their proposal when we actually didn't receive it. So we just want to make sure that you understand that you have to hit the submit button once you've reviewed your proposal. We'll hit the next button, and this is the last page of the proposal, which is the attachments page. There's 3 attachments we have listed above. We want you to submit either a Board of Directors list, Board of Regents, whatever is applicable to your organization. Then we have a signature application authorization form. This form is available up at the top where that project budget worksheet was accessed. So you'll select that signature application form, and basically it's just making sure that the primary contact of your organization acknowledges that you're submitting a proposal on behalf of the organization, and we'll have that signed, and then you'll just need to save it again to your computer and upload it to this proposal at the very bottom of this page. And then we ask for an IRS Form 990. Now, if you're a government organization or a church, you will not have this form, so you can skip that. But all other organizations, we do need you to upload that information. And then below, we have a couple other documents that may need to be uploaded depending on what type of organization you are. You will need to upload an income statement if you are an organization that files a 990-in, or they also call it a e-postcard. And that's if your organization has gross annual receipts of $25,000 or less. And if you are applying on behalf of a church, you will need to submit your group ruling letter. Now here's instructions on how to upload your attachments. It's very simple, just how I walked through the project budget worksheet. We'll scroll down to the bottom. You'll select the document that you're ready to upload. So if I'm ready to upload my Board of Directors list, I will browse for that document on my computer, and then I'll select the upload button. Says it's uploading, and it will take me to the top. Accidentally, that's a good example. It uploaded it twice because I hit the button a couple of times. So if I want to get rid of one, I can just hit that remove button and get rid of it. And at the top, it'll then show you all of your attachments that are uploaded. So let's say I'm ready to submit my application. Again, I'll select that review and submit button, but that does not mean that your proposal is submitted. It's taking you to a final page of your application and having you review it one more time before submitting. And this page will also point out any errors that you have, and you cannot have any errors before you submit, so you'll need to correct those. And since I did not fill out this application today as I'm just walking through it, it's pointing out all these errors that I have. But you should not have any errors after you've completed your proposal if you've done so correctly, and then you'll just review everything and go to the very bottom, and you should have a submit button at the bottom. And once you hit that submit button, you will get an automated email letting you know that your proposal has been submitted and we have received it, and it will be sent to our review committee. So that's all I'm going to go over for today. We will open it up for questions now. If you haven't done so, please enter your audio pin, which is should be located on the right side of your screen. So let me make sure everyone's done so. Looks like we've got a number of people. No. It looks like I'm going to have to, give me a couple of seconds, I'm going to have to unmute everyone individually real quick. I've unmuted probably about half of the audience. If you have a question, please feel free to ask it and we can get it answered for you.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you send a confirmation email that the application has been received?
Yes. Yes, once you submit your application, hit the submit button, you'll automatically get an email from us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
On your board of directors list, do you need contact information or anything besides their names?
No, just a list of their names.
Thank you.
And their role on the board, you know, identify.
And their role? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Question, please.
Yes.
Say you don't fund medical research, do you fund behavioral?
On both physical and mental health care.
What
I
I had in mind was some research into gambling behavior and the possible negative effects of that. Would that not be
That would not be eligible. Correct.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up on my end. I did not understand what you said.
I'm sorry, we are getting some feedback on our line, so I apologize. The project that you described, the research on gambling behavior, would not be allowed.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions?
I'm going to go through the list. So we've had some that have been entered. For proposals which are denied, we do not receive any feedback about why the proposal was not more highly ranked. Is it possible to get this feedback?
This is Carolyn. No, I'm sorry, it is not possible. Frankly, because many times we don't have a reason why it was not funded, other than there just wasn't enough funding. Each cycle, all proposals compete against every other one received. So what is funded one cycle may not be the next, and vice versa. It rarely could we point to a reason why something was not funded. They're all good proposals. It's just a matter of choosing among many good proposals.
Another question we had entered was, is the development of a multi-use recreational trail considered a construction project?
Again, this is Carolyn. It depends on the construction material that you're using and what portion of that you're asking for funding. If you're asking for the development, so I'm presuming if you're in the beginning process, if the request is to help develop a plan. I'm sorry, we're getting a lot of feedback on the phone. If everyone could mute their phones until they need to ask a question, that might help. But as far as the question about the development of a recreational trail, I'm assuming that if in the beginning stages you might need to hire an architect to help design what that trail would look like, where it would connect to other trails, etc. And if it included if a proposal was a request for signage for the trail, that would be allowable. If you were going to use a crushed rock or sometimes they use a wood fiber, shredded fibers that they can cover the trail with, those would be allowable. Now, unfortunately, if you wanted to install a concrete, a paved path under our guidelines against construction, that would not be allowable.
The next question we've had entered is, are demonstration agricultural projects considered construction projects?
I'm sorry, I think I would need a little more information. If the person who submitted that question in writing is still on the call, could you unmute your phone so that you can give me a little more detail?
Yes, my question deals kind of with, it's doing demonstration agricultural projects like riparian buffers, which improve water quality by reducing the amount of stream sediment that goes in, or putting it's kind of technical, but putting a cover crop onto an area of land that to keep soil from washing off so there's not just bare ground, those type of practices.
Well, that's an unusual request. I haven't heard that one before. It sounds like you're wanting to use just a small area of land and look at ways in which you can reduce runoff. I don't know if that could be allowed at this point. I would guess probably not, but I would certainly be happy to talk to you offline, a little more detail about that.
Okay.
Sorry to not be able to just give you a definite answer now. Probably just a little more detail before we could decide.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another question. Do you sometimes fund only part of a program? In other words, do not fund the entire amount requested, but part of the request?
Yes, many times we do. There could be proposals that requested something that is not allowable, but the other items requested are, if it appeared that without that exclusionary piece of the budget that the project could go forward, we could fund just a portion of it. And there are also times that you need more than the look at that and make a determination as to whether or not you do not receive the additional funding if it's likely you could continue with your project with only the foundation's funding. And if that didn't respond to your question, please unmute your phone and ask again, and we'll try one more time.
Well, this is a question on the phone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't ask that question, but I wanted to follow up on that, just tag on to that if I could. And
certainly.
How best to reflect in our proposal that if it's true, which is often the case for us, that partial funding would be welcome if full funding was not available. How best to reflect that? If you follow what I'm trying to get at here.
Sure. Depending on what your project is, perhaps you could say, if we don't receive full funding, rather than serving X number of people, we'd only be able to serve this number. Or if you could only do part of the strategies and objectives that you described, if you don't receive funding besides the foundation, just tell us what piece of that project you would be able to fund if all you received was the foundation's funding. Occasionally there are projects that it appears from the information we've received, it appears that without all the other outside funding, the project couldn't go forward, or the technical review committee is concerned that might be the case. So if you are able to go forward just at a lesser scale, do describe that to us in the application.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question we have is, will you fund supplies for construction?
No. If you're wanting materials to build add on to a building or to expand a structure, we would not be able to do that.
Another question we have is, our project is a loan pool program wherein a pool of funds is placed in a bank that is used for small dollar loans of up to $1,000 to then pay off predatory lenders. They are required to complete a 4-hour financial literacy class and other financial learning tools. My question is, would this grant be allowed to use as part of the loan pool funds, or would it need to be used for staffing and administration of the program?
I think probably staffing and administration of the program would be a better use of funds from the foundation.
Another question we have is obesity/exercise still a need?
Most definitely. Physical activity, improved nutrition are two of the foundation's focus areas in our strategic plan. And we are working with a variety of communities and organizations around the state on ways in which increasing physical activity, improving nutrition can be addressed. Different focus, some in schools, some in communities. So yes, that remains a serious concern and issue in our state. Of the written questions submitted, are there any more questions that you would like to ask at this time?
I have an additional question.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to hear a little bit more about the construction projects. We're thinking about covering a toddler playground with foam tiles so that the children can go outside even if the ground is wet.
Mm-hmm.
Would that count as a construction project?
No, it wouldn't, because it isn't permanent. Should you, for instance, if you're renting your space and you had to move to another location, you could pick that up and take it with you.
Okay, so the main thing with construction is that it needs to be non-permanent.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Was there another question?
Yes, I had a question about your anti-smoking initiative. Is that also a priority this year?
Well, it is a priority in our strategic planning, the work that we're doing as with additional board. Well, if not, I think we just give a gift of about, I think, 10 extra minutes in your day. We want to thank you very much for joining the call. Hope that it was beneficial, that it did provide some clarification or some answers to questions that you had. We'll look forward to reading all of your proposals this year. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.